All right, so today we're going deep on, well, you sent me this place called the Kuchaikote block in Bihar, India.
Yeah.
And, at first glance, it's just another, dot on the map. But
Right.
as we dug into it, it's really this place packed with history, and its geography is really unique, and it's got its own culture and, this whole economy that's evolving.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to unpack all that today, really get to the bottom of what makes Kuchaikote so special.
And I think one of the first things that jumps out is just how big this area is. Kuchaikote block is the largest in the Gopalganj district.
Okay.
And the district itself is part of the Saran division in Bihar. And within the block, you're looking at 222 villages.
Wow.
31 panchayats.
Okay, so there's already this sort of layered system of local governance that's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And that suggests a sizable population, too. And
Oh, for sure. And I see here it's almost 2.77 lakh people,
yeah.
which is, quite a lot for a block. And also, it's almost a perfect split between men and women.
That's right. Yeah. It's almost 50-50, which makes you wonder, is that common for this region?
Yeah. Is that typical?
What does that tell us, maybe compared to other rural areas, about the social structures there?
Right. Are there more women working outside the home, or are there less men because they've had to migrate for work? It's fascinating to think about.
Absolutely. And the town of Kuchaikote itself serves as the headquarters, the kind of administrative and commercial center for this whole area.
Right. So geographically speaking, where exactly is Kuchaikote located?
So it's situated at 72 meters above sea level
Okay.
on the western bank of the Gandak River.
Okay.
And this river, along with its tributaries like the Harahi and the Kanwa, really play a huge role in shaping the landscape.
I was just going to say, with all those rivers, the soil must be incredibly fertile.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. You get these annual floods, which, can be destructive, but they also leave behind this incredibly rich alluvial soil,
Yeah.
which makes the land perfect for agriculture.
It's kind of that classic double-edged sword.
Exactly.
The river gives life, but it can also be a real threat. I mean, the sources mention flooding as a significant recurring challenge for the people there.
Yeah, that's a constant reality for them. And it speaks to their resilience, having to adapt to this force of nature.
Right. So let's talk about Gopalganj district becoming a separate district in 1973.
Yeah.
It feels relatively recent, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it is pretty recent. So before that, it was part of the Saran district.
Okay.
So Kuchaikote's history is naturally tied to that larger region. But when you look back further, you find even more.
Yeah, like what?
Well, for example, there's evidence of the Cherokee's influence back in the medieval period,
Oh, wow.
which suggests they had some kind of impact on the area, whether administrative or cultural. We don't know for sure.
That's fascinating. I mean, the Cherokees, that's a whole other rabbit hole we could go down.
Totally.
But we'll say that for another time.
Another time.
Okay, so then the region became part of the Hatua Raj.
That's right.
They sound like they were a pretty big deal locally.
They were definitely a significant power, and their influence on what is now Kuchaikote would have been considerable, likely, in terms of land ownership, local administration, and even cultural practices.
Are there any specific remnants or stories or anything that gives us a glimpse into their role?
Well, there's an old palace from the Hatua Raj era in Thaw village.
Oh, well.
It's pretty dilapidated now, but it just goes to show you they were there.
Yeah, physical reminder.
Exactly. Now, of course, finding any detailed records or archaeological evidence, that'd be the real treasure trove,
Right. I mean, imagine uncovering those lost stories.
It'd be amazing.
So let's talk about the name Kuchaikote itself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's catchy, isn't it? And the fact that it might be connected to ancient forts with kote, meaning fort,
Right.
that really sparks the imagination.
It does, doesn't it? Were these forts for defense? Were they centers of early settlements?
Right, maybe controlling trade routes or something.
Who knows? But it definitely hints at a past that might be more strategically important than we realize.
Right, and then there's that famous Durga temple in Thaw
Oh, yeah.
with that really unusual cross-shaped tree.
It's quite a sight.
It's one of those details that just makes you go, huh.
It definitely makes you curious.
Like it's clearly more than just a religious site. It's got these local stories and beliefs woven into it.
Absolutely. And those stories, those would be the key to understanding its deeper significance.
Right. Like, do we know how that tree got its shape?
Well, the sources mention local folklore surrounding it,
Okay.
which usually means there are stories about divine intervention or maybe historical events tied to it.
Oh, wow. I'd love to hear those stories.
Yeah, me too. They'd give us real insight into the community's beliefs and how they see the world.
Right. And then there's that annual fair at the temple during Chaitra month.
Yes, the Thaw Fair.
It's not just a small local gathering. It's known all over Bihar.
That's right. It's a huge deal, and that just goes to show you how important this temple is as a cultural landmark.
Yeah, drawing people from all over.
Absolutely. And, these big fairs, they're more than just religious events.
Yeah.
They become social economic hubs,
Right.
places where people can connect, trade, share their tradition.
Yeah, it's like a celebration of the whole region.
Exactly. And the fact that the Thaw Fair is so widely known suggests it has a long history, and it really resonates with people.
Right. Okay, so we've talked about the rivers in this temple.
Yeah.
Geographically, where are the borders of Kuchaikote?
So to the east, you've got Champaran.
Okay.
Sion is to the south, and then to the west, it borders Uttar Pradesh's Deoria district.
Okay, so right on the edge of the state.
Yeah, and remember, it's on the western bank of the Gandak at 72 meters above sea level.
Yeah.
That low elevation is a big reason why it's prone to flooding.
Right. It all connects.
It does, yeah.
The climate, it's generally good for agriculture.
Yeah.
Which makes sense with all that fertile land, but summers can get seriously hot.
They can, yeah, up to 45 degrees Celsius.
Wow, that's intense. How do they even farm in that kind of heat?
Well, it requires specific strategies, careful water management, choosing crops that can handle the heat,
Yeah.
and maybe even changing the planting and harvesting schedules to avoid the hottest times.
It's like they're constantly having to adjust.
Yeah, they are.
And then the monsoon comes in with about 500 millimeters of rain.
Yeah, vital for those crops.
But again, always that risk of flooding.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance, isn't it?
It is. It really feels like the Gandak River just runs through every aspect of life here.
It does. The river shapes their work, their homes, even their stories.
Right. And it shapes their culture, too. I mean, the Bhojpuri traditions run deep here.
Very deep, yeah.
And Bhojpuri is the main language, along with Hindi and Mathali.
Yeah, that's the mix you hear.
What are some of the things that really stand out about Bhojpuri culture?
Well, it's incredibly rich in folk traditions, music, dance, storytelling.
Oh, yeah.
You might see very lively celebrations during festivals, particular customs around family and community,
Okay.
and a strong emphasis on the local dialects within the Bhojpuri language.
So those nuances within the language itself.
Exactly. Yeah. To really understand it, you'd need to immerse yourself in the folklore and the art.
Right.
That's where it comes alive.
And the people there described as hardworking and hospitable.
Yeah, very much so.
I mean, that makes sense in a place where everyone depends on each other,
It does. Those qualities often emerge in tight-knit communities where everyone's livelihood is interconnected.
Right.
And hospitality especially, that's deeply valued in so many parts of India.
It's true. And they've got a pretty lively social calendar, too, with festivals like Ram Navami, Holy Navaratri, Diwali.
Yeah, there's always something to celebrate.
And, of course, that Durga Temple Fair in Thaw.
Always comes back to that.
That must be quite an experience.
It is. These festivals are so crucial. They bring people together. They strengthen the community.
Yeah.
They're a way to express their identity, to have fun, to remember their history.
Right. And the food, wheat, and rice are the staples.
Yeah, the classics.
And they've got those classic dishes, Litti Chokha Dal Bhat.
Yeah, that's the heart of Bhojpuri cuisine.
It seems like a diet that's really rooted in the local agriculture.
It is very much so. It's simple, hearty food based on what they grow.
Like that Litti Chokha you mentioned.
Oh, yeah. That's a Bihar classic.
It is. Yeah. And are there any other sort of unique aspects to the Bhojpuri culinary tradition in Kuchaikote?
I'm sure there are. I mean, each region has its own little twists on the traditional dishes,
Right.
Different spice blends, maybe different ways of preparing vegetables.
I'd love to try some of that sometime.
It's delicious.
So the sources also mention traditional attire for women and that men dress simply.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? You can tell a lot about a culture from the way they dress.
Yeah, and their music, they've got those Bhojpuri folk songs, which are a big part of their music and dance traditions.
Yeah, those songs are more than just entertainment.
Yeah, what do they sing about?
Oh, everyday life, farming, social customs, historical events,
religious
beliefs.
Wow, so they really capture the whole experience of life there.
They do. They're a way to preserve their heritage, to pass down knowledge, to express their emotions.
Right. So let's shift gears a bit and talk about the economy and livelihoods.
Okay.
It's clear that agriculture is the main thing here.
It is, yeah.
And sugarcane is the biggest crop they've got.
Gopalganj is a major sugarcane producer.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest in the country.
Why is sugarcane so dominant in this region?
Well, it's probably a combination of things. The climate is perfect for it. The soil is right.
Yeah.
They've got the knowledge and experience to grow it. And there are likely sugar processing facilities nearby.
So the whole infrastructure is there.
Yeah, which creates a ready market.
Makes sense. And they grow other things too, right?
Oh, yeah. Paddy weed, pulses, vegetables.
So they're not putting all their eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Exactly.
And the Gandak River helps with irrigation.
Of course, it's the lifeblood of their agriculture.
Do they still use any traditional irrigation techniques?
I bet they do, alongside the modern methods,
Adapting the old ways to fit the new technologies, that's real ingenuity.
Absolutely. It's fascinating how those things can coexist.
It is, yeah.
Now, beyond farming, are there any other sources of employment?
Well, some people work in cold storage facilities.
Okay.
Or small industries.
Yeah. What kind of industries would you find in a place like this?
Well, you often see food processing units.
Okay, like to process the sugar cane.
Exactly. Or rice mills or places that process oil seeds.
Right.
And then you'll have workshops that repair and maintain farm equipment.
Yeah.
And maybe some cottage industries based on local crafts or resources.
Right.
Those cold storage facilities, though, those are vital.
Yeah. Why is that?
Because they can preserve the produce for longer,
Right.
Which means they can sell it further afield and get better prices.
That's smart.
It is, yeah. And another interesting thing is that a lot of residents work in the Gulf countries.
Oh, wow.
And they send back significant remittances.
Yeah. How does that impact things back home?
Well, it's a huge boost to the local economy. Families have more money, they can improve their lives, they can invest in businesses or education or healthcare.
Right.
But it can also change things socially,
In what way?
Well, sometimes it leads to shifts in family structures and social dynamics.
Right.
It's complicated, but it's definitely a factor.
It's fascinating to think about. And there's also industrial development happening, right?
Yes, there is. The government has plans to promote more industrial growth in Gopalganj.
So that could mean more jobs outside of agriculture?
Exactly. They're hoping to create new opportunities.
What kind of industries are they looking at?
Well, when you have a strong agricultural base, it makes sense to focus on agro-based industries.
Right.
Things that use local resources.
Yeah.
And of course, they want to make sure the local workforce has the skills for these new jobs.
Right. So it's got to be a good fit all around.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about education now.
Okay.
The education sector is apparently showing signs of progress.
It is,
Yeah.
though it lagged behind in the past.
Right. What were some of the challenges?
Well, in rural areas, you often have issues with access to schools.
Yeah.
The infrastructure might be poor. There might not be enough teachers.
Right.
And then you have socioeconomic factors that prevent kids from going to school regularly.
Yeah.
But it sounds like things are improving. They're investing in schools and teacher training and trying to boost enrollment and make sure kids stay in school.
That's good to hear. And they're also building new colleges in Gopalganj, right?
They are, yeah. A government engineering college, a polytechnic college, and a medical college.
Wow, that's huge for the youth of Kuchaikote.
It is. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
It gives them access to higher education, to better jobs.
Right.
And it can really benefit the whole community, not just the students.
How so?
Well, these institutions, they can attract talent. They can boost the local economy.
Yeah.
New businesses might pop up to cater to the students and staff,
Right.
And it raises the overall intellectual and professional level of the area.
It's like a ripple effect.
It is. Yeah.
And they're also improving infrastructure, right?
Yes. Roads, electricity, communication networks, all getting better.
That's essential.
It is, yeah.
And then you've got NH28 passing right through Kuchaikote.
Yeah, major highway.
And the railway access with C1 Junction and the Thaw Station.
That connectivity is key.
Yeah. How important is that for the future of the block?
Oh, it's crucial. When you have good infrastructure and good connections, it makes everything easier. It's easier to transport goods to get people where they need to go.
Yeah.
It attracts investment, and it just boosts economic growth.
Right.
And it helps integrate the region with the rest of the country.
It's like opening a window to the wider world.
Exactly.
So it seems like Kuchaikote is it's modernizing, but it's not forgetting its roots.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, they're building on their history and their culture while looking ahead to the future.
Right. And they're doing it across the board in education, in the economy, and infrastructure.
Yeah, it's really impressive, and it shows you just how dynamic this place is.
Yeah. So we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have, yeah.
We've gone from ancient forts to modern colleges.
And sugarcane fields to the bustling Thaw Fair.
Exactly. We've explored Kuchaikote's past, its present, and even gotten a glimpse of its potential future.
What's really striking to me is how they're balancing tradition with progress.
Yeah.
This community is so connected to their agricultural heritage and their cultural identity, but they're also embracing new opportunities.
Right. And they're doing it all while facing those environmental challenges we talked about.
Yeah, the resilience is remarkable.
It is. And I think what's really interesting is that what we're seeing in Kuchaikote is happening in a lot of rural communities in India.
Yeah.
This balancing act between the old and the new, between agriculture and industry.
It's a complex situation, and it makes you wonder what will be the deciding factors for these communities,
Yeah, what will determine if they can thrive in the long run?
Right. What are the choices they need to make the adaptations they need to embrace?
Big questions.
Big questions, yeah.
It's definitely something to think about. So thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And thanks to all of you for listening.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.